I was chatting one afternoon with a guy named Jerry. Jerry wasn't exactly in the highest of spirits due to the fact that he spent the better part of his life aimlessly wandering around a small, fenced in section of a farm in southern Louisiana. From what I understand, he was a bit jealous of his cousin Bill. Bill was lucky enough to land a cushy job working in the big city. The pay wasn't terrific, but the perks were nice. I told Jerry not to worry, and that I knew this lovely young lady named Bessie who was in the same type of situation. Bessie seemed to be a tad on the gloomy side because she hadn't seen her friend Clara in 2 weeks. Unfortunately, I regret to report, I bumped into Clara later that evening. The next day, I decided to introduce myself to a group of young gentlemen who were taking a short break from traveling down south. They had started their journey from a northern part of Maine and were planning to settle in South Beach, Miami for the winter. I asked one of them if it had to do with the weather, and he said no. They just wanted to find a good place to pick up a few birds and take in the nightlife. Another couple of guys said that they were planning on settling right where they were. Their theory was that they would rather sacrifice the convenience of freedom for the stability of a good home. I then moved on to a group who were a bit more well-tempered. From what I understand, they have a nasty little habit of reproducing themselves. I asked them, with the high cost of living and the swiftly increasing taxes, how could they manage to sustain such a large family? They said that with the healthcare plan they had, the more dependents they supported, the better their rates would be. I went on and on from species to species, but I didn't seem to get anywhere. I learned a few snippets of trivia here and there, but nothing I could really use in my report. I figured I was going to have to stop looking in the usual places and really get my hands dirty. I took the day off and spent it browsing through a small town library. I figured if I did a little bit of research and read up on this complicated little ball of water and dirt that seemed to rapidly be changing with every passing moment, maybe I could actually make a little headway. To be honest, I was never terribly fond of academics, but I realized that if I ever wanted to get on with my life, I was going to have to put my nose to the grindstone. I didn't know where I could even find a grindstone, but I was more than happy to put my nose to it. I eventually came across an extremely unusual group of people. They were religious fanatics who spent the better part of their lives worshipping Sod. When I questioned the idea of them praying to large bodies of grass, I was told that there was a misprint on the promotional flyer, but they all seemed to be emotionally content regardless. The more I looked at these people and pondered about the absurdity of the whole situation, the more I realized how much it related to my initial question. What is it all about? I soon came to the valuable conclusion that it all came down to one simple issue: religion. I found that in almost every situation, primarily those that are unbearably stressful or that involve a critical end, people find a way to deal with their problems through some sort of religion. Religion, however, is a subjective term. It can mean many different things. Many people prefer to avoid the subject altogether, especially if they are awakened at 7:30 in the morning only to be handed a piece of paper that says that if they just read the Bible, their lives would be so much better. I read the Bible. The investors weren't mentioned once. The one thing I noticed is that, contrary to what many people believe, religion is not limited to one person or place. Most people seem to think that spiritual bliss can only be achieved on Sunday morning in a large white building with a steeple on top and a series of bright, colorful stained glass windows. According to the sod worshippers, a large body of grass is all they seem to need. The more people I talked to, the more I realized that religion was a personal endeavor, and that peace of mind was determined by those whose mind needed peace. I met a man named Ed whose religion consisted of him sitting comfortably in bed as he stared endlessly at a box that displayed a myriad of random moving images. He did this consistently for 8 to 12 hours a day. When I asked him how he could possibly stand sitting idle in bed for 8 to 12 hours a day, he said that it was the only way he really knew how to relax. As bizarre as it may sound, this was his religion. He had faith in a little black box and worshipped it loyally. I also came across a group of people who were exactly the opposite. They dedicated their lives to keeping themselves physically fit. Their religion involved a congregation to assemble in a room that had large mirrors on the walls and was filled with assorted machines possessing a variety of large metal weights. The followers would engage in a series of exercises by lifting and pulling the large metal weights up and down from side to side and so on and so forth. The one who became the most lumpy at the end of the day would usually be the most respected. Even though outsiders looked at these people as being eccentrics or fanatics, the group insists that their religion is the ultimate lifestyle and puts one in a totally positive state of mind. I soon realized that that was the most important reason to have a religion, to achieve a positive state of mind. Whether it meant staring endlessly at a little black box, or lifting large quantities of weight up and down repeatedly, as long as they felt good doing it, that's all that seemed to matter. I soon happened upon a man named Ernest who based his entire life around a book called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Both day and night he dedicated every second he had to his motorcycle and made time for very little else. It was almost as if he and the machine were one. The vehicle was his only passion in the world. He was not married and didn't have much family. All he cared about was a large mass of metal and chrome supported by two thick rubber wheels. He would take an immediate dislike to anyone who showed any disrespect towards it, not to mention anyone who called him Ernest. Very often, people try to change their religion. I met a man who patterned his life around tiny sticks made up of leaves wrapped in white paper. On an hourly basis, he would take one of these sticks, set it on fire, and suck it until it shriveled down to nothing. The problem was, no matter how hard he tried, and how much people told him that this was a really stupid thing to do, he never seemed to be able to quit. As usual, I did my best to experience this religion firsthand. Unfortunately, however, I didn't really have the nerve to make that kind of commitment.